mind having a non-alcoholic beer. One thing somebody showed me, if you like some of these craft brews, if you take an O'Doul's Amber and put a little bit of orange juice in it, it tastes just like a Blue Moon, which if you've never had a Blue Moon, it won't really matter. But it does make an O'Doul's Amber taste a little bit better than an O'Doul's. So that's an interesting tidbit. Go ahead and write that down. I'll wait. Good, you've got that. As you can see, let's go to the weather. Outside right now, it looks like the rain has slowed up a little bit. We can still see the IDS tower out there. It was a little shaky earlier today, but hey, we're back in the midst of this spring transition of rumblers at night and beautiful days, and I'm really looking forward to getting back out and doing some things this summer. How about we talk about our first guest coming up? Okay, Chris, why don't we do that? Sure, why not? So our first guest this evening is a friend of mine that I've gotten to know over the past couple years by being involved with the VA system. She works up at the St. Cloud VA and had worked in suicide prevention, and now is in a newer position that she's going to tell us about community engagement. And from her position in that, I've had the pleasure to be involved in a new VA initiative for suicide prevention as part of the Midwest Central Minnesota Suicide Prevention Coalition, which is a mouthful, and we couldn't get it on a jersey. So we have to just maybe put it on a card and tell people about it. But she'll talk more about that tonight. So would you please welcome our friend, Laura KUNSTLEBEN. Yay! There she is. Hey, Laura, come in.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you tonight?
Good. Can we see her okay and everything, Gabriel? Oh, good. Thanks. Oh, boy. Thanks for yelling. Laura, thank you so much for coming down, especially all the way from St. Cloud and being in the studio.
Yeah,
Let me make sure that you're, well, there you go.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, good. The magic of TV, huh?
Yes. Perfect.
Laura, tell me everything. Go.
Okay.
No,
So
tell me what you do at the VA. Tell everyone that, and then tell me kind of what got you to what you're doing today.
Yeah. So I've been at the St. Cloud VA since 2007. I'm a registered nurse by trade. I've been a nurse for about 35 years. Came to the VA originally and worked in home care and took care of veterans in their own home. Was able to go back to school and got a bachelor's degree in nursing and went on to become a nurse manager in the community living center at our VA, and then got my master's degree also through the VA, helped pay for that, so that was awesome. And then in 2018, there was this posting for the job, and originally it was outreach and education specialist. And what it is the VA wanting us to get outside the VA walls to help veterans who both receive care from the VA, but those who don't as well. Because what we know is that of approximately 20 veterans who die every day by suicide across the nation, 14 of them have never been to a VA. So we want to walk alongside our community partners and help our veterans where they live, where they work, where they thrive, that kind of stuff.
Wow. That I think to most people who might not have ever heard that statistic before, that's pretty sobering. Of 20 veterans we lose a day, 14 have never utilized the care that is available to them because of the service that they provided for our country. What is the disconnect there? Why aren't they utilizing this system?
So there's lots of different reasons why people choose not to utilize the VA. Of course, it's a complex system. So just having been served in the military doesn't automatically make you a person eligible for VA care. But the bottom line, because it is kind of complex, is you should check with your county veteran service officer. And there's one for every county in Minnesota. And if you Google it and go into veteran county service officer, or Google it under your county, which county you live in, start with them, because they can help you get the right paperwork and get the benefits that you deserve. And if you're a veteran or a military person just coming out of the service, get enrolled now, because you don't have to utilize the services, even if you just go in once a year for a physical. There's kind of this myth out there that, well, if I utilize the service, then I'm taking it away from other veterans. Actually, that's not true. It works in the fact that how many enrolled veterans we have, they give more money to the VA to take care of. The more you have, the more you know, need resources to take care of them. And not to mention that when you served and if you served and you meet those eligibility requirements, you deserve that and more.
Um, I know exactly what you mean about that feeling that someone's taking it away. When I utilized the VA for treatment 5 years ago, I would be sitting in group next to somebody who just came back from Afghanistan or Iraq and lost a leg or something, and I felt guilty that somebody else who probably needs it more than I do, even though I knew I was having a lot of trouble. But isn't that part of the ethos of the warrior? Of, you know, I can handle this, that self stigma, that this is my problem, I don't want to burden anybody else. How does that play into this disconnect between people utilizing the services?
Yes, that definitely. There's some people, especially our Vietnam era veterans, who have a mistrust of the government, and we understand that. But I will tell you that since I took this position 3 years ago, I feel like we have made, I know we have made such a major shift in reaching out to people that probably haven't been reached out to before. And this position that I hold, which is actually called the Community Engagement Partnerships Coordinator position, is an example of that. Now, we're here talking today. I'm from the VA, but that is not my only mission tonight. My mission is to get people who are suicidal to get the help they need, whether you're a veteran or not. This is not just about veterans, although, you know, they do die at a rate of 1.5 times those of non-veterans by suicide. And so the VA and the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, and the Department of Defense have done a lot of research on this topic. And we use evidence-based approaches to help the community end suicide.
When you talk about community engagement around this, so this initiative, which is a fairly new initiative through the entire VA system nationally, right?
Yes.
What is the hope for a position like yours to do? When you talk about wanting to awareness around suicide, suicide prevention, not just for veterans, for the community, what is the hope that the VA has for you in getting other community members who maybe are not veterans involved in this task of cutting this number?
Right. That's a really good question, because a lot of the times when people are taking care of veterans, they don't even know they're veterans, or we don't even use the term veterans all the time. We say, have you ever served in the military? We need people to ask the question. The reason is it's like any other cohort of the population. Veterans, those who've served, and their families have unique needs, just like other cohorts. So maybe the older veteran has a different need than maybe the younger veteran, or the Native American population has a different need. But so we want to educate the public on what those needs are. And it doesn't mean that they deserve different treatment. It's that what we call cultural humility, and saying, I've never served, but tell me about your service. What branch of the military were you in? What did you do? Because what happens for a lot of our young soldiers who come back from deployment is their job that they left behind looks different, and it doesn't always translate to how sophisticated the roles they had while they were deployed. Now, not every person deployed is in an actual war zone, but the military is like a big machine. You need the whole wheel, the whole cog going round and round and working smoothly to continue to be effective. So,
Like that. I think in part of what we've talked about for the goals, can you give me a sense, and everyone else, because we've been working on this initiative is kind of broken down into goals of how we'll engage communities and things like that. Tell us a little bit about the focus of the coalition right now.
Sure. Well, actually, so the position that I hold is I cover 27 counties that our St. Cloud VA covers, and there are So my community engagement and partnerships coordinator position, we were actually the pilot project for the national level of the VA. We are VISN 23. We're made up of 5 or 6 different VAs in the upper Midwest. And so we kind of forged a path for this. And so it has been effective. And what's happening is we're going out into the community, literally getting outside the VA walls, doing suicide prevention training to anybody who will accept the training. It's free of charge. We can do it virtually. We can do it in person. We also, on these coalitions, and a coalition is basically, honestly, when I started the job, I had to look the word up myself. It's basically a group of people who have the same mission in mind. And so the other thing is the VA is been part of the governor's challenge to end veteran suicide. And so what that is doing is bringing even people at the state level together, the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs, the higher ed people, all of those people, because what we know about suicide is that the reasons people attempt or die by suicide are complex, but how to help them isn't. And so just even basic what we call gatekeeper suicide prevention training is so important for the public. I compare it a lot of times to being a nurse. I learned CPRs early on in my nursing career. I couldn't have saved someone's life who was having a heart attack before I learned CPR. Well, it's the same with suicide prevention gatekeeper training. If you don't have those basic needs or basic information, it's hard to reach out to someone and have that conversation. And they're difficult conversations. Even those of us who are trained to do it, it's anxiety provoking. But for so many people who are feeling suicidal, it really only lasts a few hours to a few days. And 90% of the time, people who are suicidal never go on to be suicidal again because they get the right help. And we're really trying to, a lot of the coalition work is preventing people from getting to be suicidal.
And when you talk about the coalition being a group of like-minded partners, just give a shout out to some of the people, not necessarily people, but some of the organizations that have gotten involved in this coalition up in central Minnesota.
Yes, we have representation from Centricare, Lutheran Social Services, Chris, yeah, Chris comes. We have representation from many educational systems. We're still looking for faith-based community members because think about when a person's struggling maybe with their mental health. A lot of times they'll turn to their spiritual advisor. And so we are still looking for people to participate and have that conversation because, again, when we've had different conversations with faith-based community leaders, they'll accept the education, but it kind of stops there. And I'm not trying to call them out necessarily, but over and over the research shows that faith-based community leaders are really important in this role. We also have law enforcement at the table. The St. Cloud Police Department actually hired a mental health worker who does ride-alongs with their police officers when they know that someone is suicidal or in a mental health crisis. And that's awesome because, you know, the law enforcement has been trying to approach these concerns differently. But to have someone specifically trained for that is just a great change in the right direction. And she's very involved in the coalition. Of course, we have veterans on the coalition. I have one Marine who is just going to be retiring after 20 years of being in the Marines. And so, yeah, we, just all walks of life need to help with this work.
And I think the point you brought up about the police, we're starting to see that more and more departments add this, either a co-responder model or what I think is so great about this type of care is that it's not just in the moment of the crisis, that they also have the mental health worker follow up with that person a day or two later, which is usually where the ball gets dropped, is after they're out of crisis. Well, now I don't feel like I need to go and follow up on that appointment or on that resource until I'm in crisis again, right?
Yeah. You're exactly right, Chris, because that's one of our priority areas is follow-up after discharge. You're right, because, you get that person over the emergency. Maybe it's the medical portion of the emergency. Maybe if they've taken too many pills or whatever. And so what happens is, you're right, they go home and that hasn't cured the reason they were feeling hopeless and suicidal. And so the evidence shows over and over that that follow-up is important. And it's not complicated follow-up. It's just this follow-up, this idea that someone cares and that someone's reaching out and someone's checking on me. And especially people who maybe they aren't as emotionally involved with, you know, as and family or you know, people who maybe they feel are judging them. And so, you know, again, reaching out and getting the help they need. And then further down the road is the follow up of how do we help you cope with the things that made you feel suicidal? And it's very treatable and preventable. That is a myth that people think that suicide is not preventable. It is. It's very preventable.
I'm glad you brought up that point. We're going to take a quick break, Laura, and then when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the expansion of coalitions in Minnesota and where you are trying to take this moving forward. So stick around. We'll be back in just a moment with Laura KUNSTLEBEN.
As we weather the COVID-19 pandemic, remember to not only take care of your physical health, but also your mental health. The pandemic news and uncertainty can trigger feelings of loneliness, despair, and hopelessness. You might also feel irritable or on edge, especially given all the changes that have occurred in a short period of time. Good self-care is the key to reduce anxiety and keep your spirits high. While so many of our normal activities are disrupted, practice kindness. Be patient with your loved ones. Eat healthy. Avoid turning to addictive substances. Get enough sleep and move. Physical exercise is good for mind and body. You will feel better for it. Let's fight COVID-19 together.
Big thank you to Magellan Health for that commercial break there. We're here with Laura KUNSTLEBEN from the St. Cloud VA. She's a community engagement partnership director. That's a mouthful to say that, and it means a lot. I love how you said you had to look up coalition, and now that we've been we're a little over a year into this. How has tell me this first? How has COVID and what has gone on with COVID, besides the fact that we're not meeting live up in St. Cloud like we used to, how has that hampered the efforts of the coalition?
Right. Well, first of all, you know, we changed to all virtual meetings. And so at first it was difficult to get people to come because for myself, even, I got detailed to do other things because of my nursing license. You know, when the pandemic first hit, it's kind of like all hands on deck. So for the first month or two, we saw maybe some, you know, downturn in people coming to the meetings. But then as people's lives, you know, balanced out a little bit, we were able to do the meetings virtually, actually have been able to start some new coalitions in different areas as well. And the Central Minnesota Suicide Prevention Coalition group has been extremely active. They were able to get 12 digital billboards put up in the area with the suicide prevention crisis line number on it. We've done numerous radio interviews, cable show interviews, besides for yours, Chris. Yours is the best, of course, well, but yeah. So we've done different interviews. We've had newspaper articles printed. We've offered many, many trainings, the gatekeeper training. Actually, the gatekeeper training, all new VA employees since 2007 are required to take it because we don't know when a veteran may come up to somebody like the housekeeper or somebody bringing the dinner trays and say, I'm feeling suicidal. What do I do? Mm-hmm. Well, we teach them what to do, and we have lots of things in place to help with that. So, and you as community members, you know, I have done training, the Gatekeeper Save training, suicide prevention training for as few as 2 people up to 100 people. It doesn't matter. We just need to get the word out how to. So SAVE stands for know the signs of somebody thinking about suicide, asking the question, and that's difficult. We love our Minnesota nice attitude. We'll talk about the weather and the Twins and the Vikings, but to actually talk about our emotions can be really difficult. And so, kind of give you some tips on that. The V is validating the person's experience, because why they're feeling hopeless is very real to them. You don't want to try and talk them out of it. And then X, the E is expediting or getting them care right away. And it's not about having all the answers. It's about recognizing those signs and giving them permission to talk about it.
And I think you brought up a great point about ancillary people in someone's life. You talk about somebody who could be in a care facility or something like that, and they might hear from a veteran say, "Yeah, I don't know, I can keep going on with this," and they're like, "Oh, wait here, I'll go get a nurse," and not realizing sometimes all it really takes is to have their feelings be validated,
Right.
and to understand that you have the power already to do something about this for that person and be there, have some connection.
Yes, actually at the VA, our hashtag is be there exactly for that reason, because it's not always about having a PhD, a master's degree, a bachelor's degree. It's about caring, being genuinely open to hearing what that person has to say. Again, do not need to have answers and solutions, just being open. Although if you feel that someone is immediately or what we call eminently suicidal, you call 911. Do not leave them alone. Unless there's a weapon involved that you may be in harm's way, you want to get authorities involved, because although you're giving them that permission to speak, you want them evaluated, because people vacillate between being what we call, like I said, eminently suicidal and having these fleeting thoughts. And there's so much that can be done. There's counseling, there's medication, there's groups, there's just getting involved in your community with things that you never thought about before. So the person doesn't need to suffer needlessly.
Let me ask you this and give a little plug for somebody who was on our show about a month ago, our good friend Ray Stengline from down in the Wilmer area. You had mentioned earlier today, we were talking about, we brought up Ray's name, and she's like, I was just talking to Ray. You're trying to move these coalitions. There's one in the Twin Cities, there's one in Duluth, there's the one that we're on together in central Minnesota. And one of your efforts right now is to try and develop new coalitions.
Yes.
What does that look like from ground zero to go? We've really got no, because there's not like there's a large VA facility there or anything.
Correct.
In that part of the state.
Right.
How do you go in and start this up from nothing?
Well, so a couple things. The VA has actually provided us what we call a landscape analysis, because our role is not to go in and take over where the work is already maybe being done on a smaller scale. It's about, again, walking alongside our community partners. So part of it is we may start them from the ground up, like Central Minnesota, or we may get involved with groups that are already doing the work. And what we want to do is have like-minded communities together, like maybe the population. There's one, it's called the Upper Minnesota River Valley Suicide Prevention Coalition. If that's not a mouthful, I don't know what is. But that group decided that was the name they wanted it. And it has to do, it's Chippewa, Big Stone, Lackaparle, Yellow Medicine, Renville, Redwood, and one more, 7 different counties. Those are very rural counties. And so they're working together. And part of it too, you kind of decide, look at the population, but also in that area, they already have some regional work being done on mental health issues, just not specific to suicide prevention. So it made sense to keep those counties aligned. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We don't want to reinvent the work that's already being done. What we want to do is enhance it, get it out to more people. And we are walking alongside the Minnesota Department of Health. They have a zero suicide initiative as well. People might be surprised to learn, but the pandemic, actually the initial numbers from 2020 do not look like the suicide death rates have gone up. So that's a good sign. That means people are reaching out for help. And I think, I know I saw lots of commercials about us as community members reaching out to our neighbors, right? I feel like, that's something we all kind of lost sight of for a while prior to the pandemic, and I include myself in that. And, if there's any silver lining to the pandemic, it's, reconnecting. And again, connectedness is huge for people to not want to feel suicidal. So,
And I think, as much as maybe people were inside and away from others and isolating, it's amazing to me the ways that people had got creative about making sure they found some connection. But that's not always the case. I'm going to ask you a tough question before we go. I will say for me that, we've had conversations about my story and how the VA in my life saved my life, made that difference. There are still a lot of veterans out there, and probably a big part of them that aren't utilizing the system on a regular basis, that are saying, you know what, I tried to get an appointment. It was tough. And we know that once we get turned down, very often we won't come back and ask a second time. So my question is, what could the VA be doing better moving forward?
So I think a lot of it's a big system. Obviously, I don't need to tell veterans that. And one of the things they're working on is having more consistent numbers to call versus I call a number, I get transferred 3 times. Now, that's not to say that still might not happen, but what I want to impress upon the veterans is to keep trying. And it doesn't mean people don't care. It's just sometimes because it is such a big system, they don't always have the answer for you. Again, I would recommend going back to your veteran county service officer because they know how to get a hold of someone at the VA as well. And they are veterans themselves. They have to be veterans to qualify for the position. So they're going to advocate for you also. And if you really need to touch base with someone, call my number and my extension. It's 320-252-1670. My extension is 6975. I may not know the answer, but I will help you find the answer. There's almost 1,900 employees at our VA. I think I know probably 1,729. So I'll help you find the answer because we just want people to get the help they need and deserve.
That's excellent. Laura, there's so much more that can be discussed on this topic. And as these coalitions develop here over the next year or so, love to have more of your partners, and maybe we will get a chance to meet live and kind of talk to everybody at once. So I really want to thank you for coming down and bringing awareness to this really important topic. As she said, we'll get that number on the screen before the end of the show. But her email, Gabriel, if you could throw that up again, you can reach out to her by email at laura.kunsleben@va.gov. And even if you just go to va.gov and look under resources for mental health and suicide prevention, many things to be found there. Thanks so much for being here. Maybe one thing I could suggest is maybe better hold music. If somebody has to be on hold, maybe like from somebody like our upcoming guest here, Jeremiah Rich, who will be with us right after the break. So stick around.
You have served our country and made us proud. Many of you are still serving. Some of you have come home to our communities where you continue to lead and contribute. Some have come back from deployment to find new challenges at home. Every family can have challenges. In or out of uniform, we need you to continue to serve and help your battle buddies, families, and communities. It's important that we all learn the 5 signs of emotional suffering: personality change, agitation, withdrawal, poor self-care, and hopelessness. If you or someone you know is experiencing one or more of these signs, reach out and offer to help. I reached out for the support I needed, and it made all the difference. This is how we keep our units, our families, and our nation strong. Visit changedirection.org.
Stick around with us as we check out our musical guest this week. Here's a gentleman that was introduced to me through a YouTube video from a board member of ours and said, you should really see what this guy is doing. And we talked about influences earlier, and he hits on all the same ones that I love: Dave Matthews, John Mayer, and I think you'll notice those influences in his playing. I am so proud to have as our guest tonight. Please welcome Jeremiah Rich.
Thanks for having me tonight. I really appreciate it. The song is called Breakthrough, and it's about overcoming addiction. The world used to pulse and radiate. Affliction heaven could not negate. It's hell on earth on relief to wait. Stretch past sleep, paralyzed crosswire. The load haunts in lack of desire. Mutant beauty, twisted dire. This haze must be retired. Life leaves for dead. Shine, sheen, rejects the eyes. Fallout's forlorn shadow shatters this dreary dawn disguise. Stretched past sleep, paralyzed crosswire. The load haunts in lack of desire. Mutant beauty, twisted dire. This haze must be retired, be retired. Break on through, shake your shiver from the shrill electric night. Break on through, you're a mighty warrior in this cutthroat fight. Break on through, morning's glorious, magnificent first light. Break on through, new horizon rising, beating, blooming bright. Break through, break through. Come to return to vibrant sight.
All right. Wow. Nice. Oh my gosh, Jeremiah, I'm so glad that you're able to be with us tonight. That tune was the lyrics you used to describe where you were in your battle. It's one of the things I've always loved about music is the way that people can turn that internal emotion into words and phrases that just kind of, you know, solidify other people understanding what it must be like to struggle with that. Tell me a little bit about your songwriting and where that comes in your journey of recovery.
Sure. Well, I read a lot about addiction, mental health, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about tonight. A lot of these words were actually penned when I was in a prison cell. So I had about 12, 13 years of very, very active addiction. And so I finally decided to get sober. I'm 22 months sober now. But so I decided, that it could be really constructive to write about the experience and hopefully help other people avoid what I've been through, and also to know the resources we have in the state. So that's really my goal, is to help people know that you can definitely get through those hard things and have a fresh start.
Nice.
So.
Your guitar playing style we talked about before, that I love your ability to, I think somebody in the room was clocking with a speed gun your wrist, and we got it about 70 miles an hour on a couple of those phrasings there. Is that just what comes naturally for you in the way that you play, in that kind of that quick strum?
Well, it kind of came from when I first started playing guitar. I wasn't very good at doing any single note work, but I had some interesting rhythms that I was doing, and I loved flamenco. And so I wanted to translate flamenco and kind of the power of an electric guitar to the acoustic. So
Wow.
that's kind of where that comes from.
I love it. Can I twist your arm to play us another one?
Yeah, I'll do one more. This one's called Stand Tall. I've never played this before really for a group, so I hope you guys enjoy it.
It's the debut.
Today I have to escape this black hole of mundane. My mental central control sways slow to quench pain. It daunts to conjure resolve when hope's wait grows long. If you relate, this anthem is your song. When the whole world shrinks, you stand tall. Rise above, be taken with the climb and not the fall. Get off my lawn, part-time experts gun down the heart. Crackpot off the wall, advice pries esteem apart. Though it scares to hear those two, since tainted untrue. Even self-critic is far smaller than you. When the whole world shrinks, you stand tall. Rise above, be taken with the climb and not the fall. When the whole world shrinks, you stand tall. Rise above, be taken with the climb and not the fall. You persist to forge a strong, firm, fortified bond. No one knows why life shifts hard, but journeyed scars for us beyond. When the whole world shrinks, you stand tall. Rise above, be taken with the climb and not the fall. When the whole world shrinks, you stand tall. Rise above, be taken with the climb and not the fall. With the climb and not the fall. With the climb and not the fall. Thank you.
Woo! Wow. I love it. I love it. tunesbyjr.com. That's where you can find more music of his, and on YouTube. Is your YouTube channel just Jeremiah Rich?
Yeah, youtube.com/Jeremiah Rich.
Wow. I suggest that you check some of those out, because those weren't even the two songs that I heard that had us invite him on here. So it's like, oh, there's some more nice nuggets. Oh man, I was just like, you know what it was? It was that change at the end, that chord change, and it was also, we were talking about, you stuck the landing on that. my hope is that you'll come back to be on the show to talk a little more about your story and to be a part of our summer concert series that the Heart and Mind Connection is putting on. Artists who are in this realm. We're working through recovery from mental health issues and substance use issues and are using their art for their own self-care and to bring others closer to the understanding that you're not alone in your recovery. So again, blessings and thank you so much, Jeremiah Rich, for being here. Also to our guest, Laura KUNSTLEBEN from the St. Cloud VA for talking with us tonight. As always, we try and spread this message to as many people as possible. Please tell people about what we're doing here on YouTube, on Facebook Live. If you have questions for our guests, please send those in even after the show. We'll make sure they get to them and get answered. And join us again next Tuesday when we have 2 more people here as guests. I don't know who they are yet. I could look, but what fun would that be? That it leaves you wanting, right? As we always say, please remember that you are not alone as much as you may feel that way. There are people out there who understand what you're going through because we've been there too. Reach out to us at theheartmindconnection.org for more information. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Woo!